So let's talk about Panerai, and in particular, the recent revelation that Panerai has been using ETA movements in its latest and highly hyped chronograph. Now, this is a little bit disappointing, in part because I own a Panerai, which I am wearing right now, but also in part because Panerais are not cheap. So you would think that they might actually enhance their movement, which they claim to do, but evidently they don't seem to be doing by using a pretty standard ETA movement. Now, I'm not the one who came across this. Rather, Periscope on Instagram did this, and then Jory Goodman at the Timeteller has covered this in rather a lot of detail. So I'm definitely riding on their coattails, or standing on their shoulders, or whichever metaphor you want to mix together in relation to this topic. But still, it's interesting, so I figured I'd give it some time. So let's have a look at the watch in question, and then we can go from there. So the offending watch is here in the chronograph section of Panerai's website. And if we keep scrolling down, we can see various different iterations of this, some of which are available in just 1,000 pieces. But when everything is available in just 1,000 pieces, everything becomes limited edition, and then nothing is. But in any case, we're seeing a few different iterations down here, some of which do look quite nice, some of which look a little bit more boring. I'm not a massive fan of this one, for example. However, we can sort of see various different models. It's a relatively nice enough looking watch. I do rather like the PAM 1218, so I mean that's not a bad option, to be honest. However, we really need to click on and look at the details about the watch. So if we keep going down to this watch, we can see various pictures about it. It looks like a nice enough watch. It doesn't have a see-through case, but that's neither here nor there. The shape is rather nice. I do like the indentation for the chronograph dials. And if we keep going down, we can see some more information about it, although not very much. What they say here in relation to the movement is, it is an automatic movement, P9200 caliber. Then if we keep going down here, they have now omitted any verbiage about it being in-house. However, it had previously been stated that it was an in-house movement. Then that's pretty much what they're saying here. Now, in order to indicate this, we need to have a look at what their initial write-up was. There was an initial write-up in Hodinkee that we can have a look at. Now, again, I'm not the first person to have brought this up. Jory Goodman at the Timeteller is effectively where I got this information from. So over on Hodinkee, we can see some information here. It says, one of Panerai's major pushes for the 2021 Watches and Wonders is its new Luminor chronograph line, which features a new automatic chronograph caliber, the P9200. At launch, we have 3 different versions of this watch in the main collection, all made of stainless steel with dials in blue, black, or white. We also have a bracelet option as seen in the below blue dialed reference. So that's what we're seeing so far. Then if we keep going down, we can see some more information about it. And that's all well and good so far. The main issue, of course, is the movement was originally marketed as in-house, and it patently is not. So if we keep going down here, we see, update, Panerai has confirmed that the new caliber P9200 uses an ETA base with a Dubras chronograph module, i.e. it's not their own development. We can also see this on the Periscope Instagram. Now, on the Instagram here, and give him full credit, he's the one who did this research here. So it says here, in relation to caliber inside, in-house, question mark. Then he's circled a reference here to the 2892 ETA movement. Then effectively what he was asking here of Panerai was, is this in-house? And then Panerai responds, thank you for your message. In reply to your inquiry, the movement of the Luminor Chrono Luna Rossa is an automatic mechanical, P9200 caliber in-house. Blah, 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 blah. And then Periscope has in the comments over here, please complete the following sentence. Panerai and consorts, referring to a basic ETA 2892 with Dubras chronograph movement as in-house movement is ... So we're seeing here effectively it's not an in-house movement, it's an ETA movement with a chronograph module. This is a problem. Now, while this is perfectly acceptable in a much cheaper watch, the Panerai is not a cheap watch. So if we go over to Panerai's website, we can see what they're asking for this type of thing. So back in their website, what you can immediately see is $9,200 excluding sales tax. This is in US dollars, by the way. This is a problem because that's not particularly cheap. There are myriad other options in this price range, many of which would be better. For example, a Breitling Super Ocean Heritage chronograph, which you could get as an alternative and is a nice enough watch. I mean, that's an alternative. There are other chronograph alternatives. Zeniths, for example, are an alternative. Now, many of these other watches have either made strides to go in-house and improve the movements, or alternatively don't pretend to charge the same amount of money as Panerai. So they have to make up their mind. Either they go in-house and they charge in-house appropriate prices, or they don't and they go cheaper. Now, this can be an issue because, to put this in perspective, I recently bought a Sega X series, which purports to have an in-house movement. Now, one can argue that that in-house movement is maybe also a modified movement of some kind. I don't know for sure, but even if it is a modified movement from someone else, that's still much cheaper. And from a price range of this, I would expect more from Panerai than just this type of situation. But then are my thoughts about what this means for Panerai. Well, my thoughts about this are relatively negative. My thoughts about this are negative for a few reasons. Firstly, if Panerai is not going to make its own movements in-house, it needs to compete significantly on design. It needs to be prettier, it needs to use better materials, it needs to have better case design that has other attributes, so better water resistance, or better materials, or better shock resistance, or better something than everyone else. So it needs to compete on something. But if Panerai isn't going to compete on the movement, then what else is it really competing on? To my mind, not really very much. Its design hasn't changed that much over the years, and there are myriad Panerais that all look almost exactly the same. Now, granted, the chronograph looks a little bit different, but still, a lot of the Panerais look the same. So they're not really competing that much on design. The dials aren't that unusual or spectacular. There's nothing that I would say in the watch that makes you go, ooh, wow, that's exciting. So I don't think they're competing on design very well. They aren't really competing on materials either, because you look at this watch and it's perfectly competent material-wise. But watches at much lower price points are going with titanium, or if you like it, diamond-like carbon coating. So, I mean, even talking about some basic Kickstarter campaign watches are using more interesting materials. Now, granted, there can be some quality control issues. They don't have the brand name, etc., etc. But they're using more exciting materials. And Panerai charges a lot more. So it needs to provide something. In terms of shock resistance and the like, I already mentioned that Sega Design X. Now, I don't want to really equate a Kickstarter watch with a Panerai, but they have a shock resistance mechanism in there. So, I mean, for Panerai to get away with charging these prices, it needs to do something that is unique and interesting, and it can't just rest on being Panerai. Because Panerai's brand name is not as strong as they seem to think it is, at least in my opinion. So I would regard this as not boding well for Panerai. It kind of has the look of them trying to fleece customers and being disingenuous. Now, maybe it was just a mess up. Maybe it was that they just got their language wrong to begin with. But it's not great. It doesn't really fill with confidence about Panerai or the desire to order from them. So those are my thoughts on Panerai using ETA movements. I admit that I probably don't have terribly much else to add on the very competently executed video from the time teller and the other information that's coming out about these. But I hope you have found this video somewhat informative. If you have, of course, it would be great if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any thoughts about what's going with Panerai or what this means for Panerai going forward, do let me know that in the comments below. Of course, it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on Panerai as well. And otherwise, it would be great if you like the video and subscribe to the channel, like I said, and it would be great to see you next time as well. Bye.